so far so good. We will run into some things, I'm certain, but for example, we talked middle school track. Hillside has a very large team. Well, it limits the number of students. If there's 75 kids on the team and only 50 can go on any given day to an away meet, because you have to leave space on a 77 for their bags. All right, then we talked about, maybe we don't need parents to drive kids. Maybe we need a couple fathers with trucks that'll throw all the bags in, and now we can put bodies on the buses instead. So, we've got to think of those kinds of things as well.
I mean, can't they do like the airplane, put it under the seat?
I'm sorry?
Can't they do the airplane style, put it under the seat, and still fill up all the seats?
We need a bus
Some of those buses
No, they
don't
don't have-
have underneaths. They're blocked off.
They're blocked off.
Really? Never
Because
seen that.
I'm sure there's equipment as well, right? I know when I see sports buses arriving, they're coming with equipment bags,
That's in
equipment for
Jordan
the
for
game.
boys lacrosse.
Lacrosse bus.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no place to put any of that stuff, so it's.
You can go look at my car right now with my equipment. Like,
Okay.
So
we take a
it's-
small
let's move
bus
on. Yeah.
and I drive the equipment.
So
The issue isn't necessarily the sports equipment necessarily. It's my books, it's my cleats, it's my book bag, my sports equipment. There's a number of,
So I guess the consideration for this committee is really on the policy side, right?
Yes.
I mean, you guys get to manage the stuff you manage, and our question, I think, as a board should be, what can we do if there's any bottleneck, if there's any policy change that might help, then that's really our first role, right? So that you're not suffering under rules that were created by a board that don't meet the reality of your needs. So. So I know that this will always be a work in progress, and I think it's worth noting that a lot has changed, a lot of good stuff has happened, and so I'm very satisfied that we're working in a very dynamic situation, and our department, as it currently is, we have two people that now, for the first time in a long time, managing the department, as opposed to having Ms. Tells just 5 years ago or 4 years ago, was it, when you were half-time? Was it 4?
8 years ago.
8 years ago? The years fly. So we went from one person being half-time managing this so it's all a function of how much we can do. I have one question before I go to the budget issue, just the track and field thing. So you said, I think at the high school level, was it some high schools or a high school that had cuts at track and field?
Hillside had cuts at track and field, as did McLaughlin.
So can I just ask, so maybe it's transportation,
Yeah.
but so when I think about track and field, because excuse my simple view, right, and great respect to people who do track and field, but it's like, teams like a football team, a soccer team, there's a limit to the numbers. What's the limiting, why would we have cuts at track and field?
Coach management.
We have one coach, like, we're just gonna tell you, Hillside girls had 90 girls come out. We have one paid coach, one.
Right.
So there's that, but there's
Okay.
also, you can only have 6 athletes compete in each event for the running events, and you can only have, and then you have your, in the running events are only 6 of them, so technically if you had 6 different kids for each 6 events, that would be 36.
Right.
And then you'd have some throwing events. So there are limits to track and field for how many kids that you can put into events, because if you did bring 90 kids, you'd run the 100 for about an hour and a half before you would get to the next one. So hence the reason why there's 6 spots, only 6 kids can run in each event. So coaches can only have that many, and you can't fully take, yeah.
So I'm sorry to just bear with this for a minute. So if I'm amazed at the 90 kids thing. When we hear that kids aren't interested in their home and their phones and they don't care, there are sports and things that kids want to do, and I mean, I'm a soccer guy from way back, and I saw that at soccer where kids show up and, we pick the 20 and the other 10, 15 or 30 or 40 go home. And I understand it, so we can't solve all problems. But I'm just very impressed that 90 girls showing up for track and field is incredible.
Yeah.
So what does the number get cut at? Like what kind of what would they end up at?
I would say he kept too many, but he did a travel, and this is similar, this is nothing new, because when I was coaching at McLaughlin, I did the same thing. I kept my competition group. Those are the kids on there that have real skill in this sport. And then you do your practice group. Those are the athletes that with some work could be that first team. And then you make the cuts on the other ones and you give them some, if you want to do this, here's some things to do in the off. Or maybe you want to try flag football, maybe try softball or baseball and kind of geared them off. So for that, he kept 45 athletes. Again, we have one bus, so that's 25 who can go to a meet. But they'll have carpooling information. We figured he could add probably another 5 to 7 kids if we have adults who'll take all the bags. Then we can put a boys team of 30 and 30, max out space on the bus,
Right.
have a parent who'll do it, and then use carpooling to get the rest of the team who can travel there where we can fit them in. Because you're probably gonna maybe fit 36 kids into the meet to compete.
Right. And then there's the person management issue that you brought up,
Right.
right? That,
Yeah.
like, just managing that number of kids, but.
Yeah.
It's difficult, and, volunteer coaches are always great to help, but you can't always guarantee you're gonna have those, and when you have 90 kids running around, it's hard to know every single kid's name, let alone coach up their throwing
Right.
technique or running technique to give them the best opportunity, so.
And it's the
Yeah.
instructional piece. It's, you have, teaching the 440 relay is different than teaching the 100, the 100 meters. And then the throwing events, the different things such as that.
Yeah, there's a,
In an hour and a half or maybe a 2-hour practice every day, to try to go through and teach those various skills, almost virtually impossible, probably with one, without some volunteers.
and the way the middle school, just on the middle school side, 2 lots on the high school. There are so many events for track and field that our coaches are expected to run an event at an away meet because everybody lacks volunteers. So we have a meet on Monday for Southside. Southside's gonna run hurdles. So those 2 coaches are dragging hurdles out, they're gonna be at Sanborn. At the same time, their team now has to be well behaved because the coaches are actually hands-on running an event too. So it has to be, and that happens for high school too, because we have so many different events. Our high school coaches jump in and run shot put, discus, long jump, triple jump. They run something during the meet because of the lack of volunteers. And then we just hope everybody's responsible while they're there.
All right, all right.